Welcome back to the channel, Den members. My name is Matt. If this is your first time visiting, welcome to the Phantom Llama's Den. Today, we are finally getting around to talking about this optic. Oh, and here's the gratuitous safety check. Clear gun. Nothing in there. This is, by the looks of it, a Trijicon ACOG. Now, anybody that's into the tactical side of firearms and anybody that has grown up playing Call of Duty or Battlefield will know what an ACOG is. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on optics, let alone on ACOGs, but the basics you need to know about an ACOG are: an ACOG is a prismatic optic with a magnification rating. This one is a 4x magnification, and the reticle is illuminated by fiber optics. Now, that is especially neat because if there were a global disaster or a local disaster, say an EMP that knocked out all electronics, an ACOG will still work because it is not electronic. It is solely fiber optic. And the way that the reticle works, it makes target acquisition at different distances very easy, as opposed to a red dot or a red dot hollow sight reticle. The other thing that you need to know about ACOGs, especially if you want to get one, they are very expensive. And by very expensive, I mean the lower end ACOGs made by Trijicon are $1,000 or just above. The most expensive Trijicon ACOG that I've seen at the local sporting goods stores is, I think, $1,700. I don't have that kind of money. My wife would kill me if she found out I spent $1,600 on an ACOG. So one day when I was perusing eBay, I discovered that there is a relatively convincing looking knockoff. Obviously, it is therefore Chinese made, and I just love the fact that it even says Trijicon on here. On this side, it even has the QR code, says made in the USA, and it even has a patent number on it. I don't know how they can keep getting away with this.
You can't keep getting away with it!
But they did. I couldn't resist just purchasing this, not because I thought it would be just as good as a Trijicon ACOG, but because I wanted to see how bad it actually is. That's right, I spent $100 on this optic, expecting it to be absolute trash. That said, I was actually pretty surprised with what I found. Before I forget, if you're enjoying this video, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. We've got a lot of awesome content coming down the line, and you don't want to miss out. So you definitely want to be hitting that bell icon for notifications on future videos. I'm just messing with it. I'm noticing that the picture quality through the lens is really, really foggy. I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to be unusable. I'll just return this as garbage. Well, I decided in my normal fashion I'd tear it down a little bit. And tear down of the ACOG is actually really easy. It has 4 Allen key screws here that pop off, then you can get access to the prism and some of the fiber optics inside. I get the front of the lens off, and there are fingerprints all over the prism and fingerprints all over the inside of the rear lens here. Got it all cleaned up. The prism had to dry because it fogged up, and I got it all put back together. Now, that's another thing. All Trijicon ACOGs say that they are anti-fogging. There is nothing where the rear of the optic comes off of the actual part, off of the prism. That's going to fog. And I was actually at the range with this, and it started to fog up a little bit on a really cold day. And that's fogging internally, not the lenses on either end of the optic. So when I got it all cleaned up, the sight picture was a lot better, but at close range, it didn't feel quite right. And even the eye relief on this is nowhere near as good as a proper Trijicon ACOG. I finally figured out a good distance with it, but it just wasn't quite as easy on the eye, if you will. That said, the sight picture up close, terrible. At range, still not great. Imagine looking through binoculars and the image is just out of focus and you can't do anything to adjust it. This doesn't have any kind of adjustment on it to adjust the focal length. So you're going to be up a creek without a paddle, and if you are relying on this, you're gonna have to get used to there being a bit of a fuzzy picture. The big thing that I was most interested about in this optic were the fiber optics, how well that worked or if that was a gimmick, and how well it held zero. This was the part that I was most impressed by. This holds zero very well, and the adjustments on the optic are very fine. I wasn't expecting it to be as precise as it was. I was just really impressed by that. Okay, so started here, cranked it down, got a little low here, brought it back up. So I'm still shooting a little high here. And for the record, I was doing this on purpose. I was just mag dumping at the end as legally as you can at a range. The day that I took this out to the range to test, I shot nearly 300 rounds. Please don't tell my wife. It stayed on target. There was no drift up or down. There was no drift side to side. At 100 yards, I wasn't having any issues. I was very impressed with how this held up from a zeroing perspective. The other thing I was very impressed with was that the fiber optic technology in this is legitimate. It worked very well. I really don't have anything further I can say about it other than it did what it was supposed to do. There aren't any batteries in this, and the illumination on the reticle was nice and bright, and I just don't have anything negative to say about it. So it puts me in a really weird feeling spot on this knockoff Trijicon. It actually does work like a proper ACOG. The sight picture is not that great. I would expect that the quality of the glass used is much lower quality than what Trijicon uses. I would be willing to bet that this would scratch very easily. Leave a comment in the comment section if you want to see a torture test on the optic, not the gun. The fact that it fogs and doesn't have any of that anti-fogging in it, that bothers me. The lack of quality control with there being fingerprints all over the prism and on the interior glass lens, that was a problem. But otherwise, the construction is not something that I would ever turn my nose up to. And the fact that it held zero for 300 rounds without any sign of change at all on the targets that I was throwing up, it's reliable. So the ultimate question is, would I recommend an eBay bought knockoff Trijicon ACOG? For a person that wants a good optic for a rifle that they're going to be using for home defense, absolutely not. For $100, you could get a much better optic. But if you're looking for something that could be used more along the lines of, hey, you want to try out a cool optic that not too many people have? You want to try out my ACOG? Yeah, I could see it. But then again, this is a literal sample size of one here. If you've bought a knockoff Trijicon ACOG, leave a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear your story and what your initial impressions are. If you've got $100 and you just really want an ACOG on maybe one of your quote unquote fun guns for a range day, sure. But I would definitely not trust this on a primary home defense weapon. I think we're gonna retire this for now. It'll come back, especially if you all want a torture test. We'll come up with something. But I think we're going back to my EOTech and magnifier. Better. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to hit that bell icon for notifications of future videos. As always, don't take life too seriously and make it a great day.